Training your shoulders the way that you already are probably isn't going to cut it if you want wide shoulders. Too many of you are putting emphasis on one part of the shoulder that's already getting used in a ton of exercises. There's a different way to train. And by the end of this video, you'll need to put in an order for some new t-shirts because your shoulders are gonna blow up. Let's take a look at these exercises that you keep doing. Dumbbell anterior raise, focusing mainly on the anterior deltoid, which is the front of the shoulder. Barbell anterior raise, working the same thing. And this stupid steering wheel bullshit that needs to stop. That should not be in the gym in 2023. There's too much good info on my YouTube channel to continue doing exercises like that. There's other exercises as well where you're using cables to do anterior raises. Then you have any overhead press movement. You could be using a barbell, dumbbells, or a machine. The thing about these exercises is that the prime mover, or the main muscle that's working, is the anterior deltoid. But the anterior deltoid is used in a ton of other exercises as well, and not on shoulder day. When you're doing the dumbbell chest press machine, incline barbell bench press, chest flies, the anterior deltoid is working. It may not be the prime mover in these exercises, but it's what you call a synergist, which is a muscle that aids in the movement. So if you have a designated chest day and a designated shoulder day, the anterior deltoid is going to be hit twice. And this can actually lead to a lot of shoulder issues that is super common in men because we're always doing chest day, always doing shoulder day, back day, maybe we'll do it once a week. And we overdevelop the anterior deltoid, which can lead to some complications. So let me tell you about this other way of training. So here's what I want you to do. If your goal is to get width in your shoulders, then I really want you to focus on your medial deltoid or the side deltoid. And here are some exercises that you can do to help grow them. The dumbbell lateral raise. This is a classic. What you want to do with the lateral raise is keep the arm path at 30 degrees in front of the body instead of just going completely out the side. If you line up that arm path correctly, that's going to optimize that exercise. You also don't want to use any momentum and hip thrust to get the weight up because that's going to take the tension off the target muscle. You can also use the variation where you're leaning into a 45-degree bench and doing a lateral raise that way. That changes something called the resistance profile. Instead of the dumbbell lateral raise being harder at the top, which it usually is, now it's going to be harder more in the middle range. You're hitting the same muscle, but it's difficult in different places. Behind the back cable lateral raise is one of my favorites. And if I expand on the resistance profile idea that I was talking about before, this makes the lateral raise hardest at the bottom. So now you have 3 variations of the lateral raise, which makes it hardest at the bottom with the cable lateral raise, hardest in the middle of the rep with the 45-degree leaning lateral raise, and then you have the standard standing dumbbell lateral raise, where it's hardest at the top, which you can also do seated if you want to as well. Lastly, we have the Y raise. This is using cables, so there's constant tension throughout, although it is harder more at the bottom part. If you want to make it harder at the top, what you can do is use dumbbells and lean into a 45-degree bench. And as you're leaning into the 45-degree bench, you make that Y shape with your arms, and that's going to give you the same muscle that we're targeting, but it's going to have a different resistance profile and be challenging in a different area. And the reason that resistance profiles are really good is because they give you variation, but you're hitting the same muscle group. So you can continue to get different stimuluses for your muscle as you target that same muscle group. And it also keeps training pretty exciting because you're doing different exercises frequently. You're not just doing the same dumbbell lateral raise every single time with dumbbells. You can grab cables, you can grab dumbbells, you can grab a bench and lean in, and you have different variations. We also can't exclude the rear deltoid. However, I do find that the rear deltoid does get worked when you do back day and you're training through different exercises. It's also a synergist when you're training your back. Bent over rows, standing face pulls, seated rows, your rear deltoids are working. There are ways to hit them even more so. For example, having a 45-degree grip when you're doing the seated row, or also having a 45-degree grip when you're doing the lat pull down. If you're doing any row movement or any pull down movement, if you use a 45-degree grip, it's going to help you use your rear deltoids in the exercise. When you are doing shoulder work, maybe you can keep your overhead presses to 1 to 2 movements per week and really maximize the training that you're doing with your lateral raises, because this, once again, is going to hit the medial deltoid and give you that width in your shoulders. You could also add some rear deltoid work. However, just remember they do get hit on back day, so you may not need to do as much as you think if you're training your back about 2 times per week. If you found this video helpful, then I know that you'll also find this video very helpful, where I talk about different shoulder exercises that you can use to grow your shoulders that you may not be aware of.